Hi and welcome to the 2488 Neo Special Notes video tutorial. Well, the big addition to the Neo version of the incredibly popular 2488 is the highly anticipated mastering tools right up here. We now have the ability to produce professionally polished master recordings without the outside help of expensive mastering software packages. If you are a Neo owner, I assume that you've already seen the Mark II special notes as they explain the new submixer, the new guitar effects, live writer function, and the different way of using the metronome and tempo settings. As long as you've understood those additions made with the Mark II, we can then concentrate on the new mastering tools in the Neo. So, the big change in terminology for Neo owners that we need to get used to is that pre-mastering, it used to be known as, now on the Neo is known just simply as mixdown. You can see that we have a dedicated button that describes it. On the original footage, you'll see that we have to go into menu and then audio CD to get what used to be called pre-mastering. On the Neo, all you need to do when mixing your song down onto a stereo mix is just press mixdown. Now, if your song is protected, you'll need to exit and exit one more time, get into menu, song, and down to protect, and just turn that to off and hit enter. Okay, I'll press mixdown mastering again. And just like the original footage with the grey 2488, you'll just zero return, hit record and play, and mix your song in any way you see fit. Bring things up and down. And do a fade out at the end if you like. We could then stop that, zero return, and then press this again to be able to play back that mixdown track. And you're going to hear all those faders going up and down just as we recorded that mix. So this is all exactly the same as the original grey 2488. It's just called mixdown rather than pre-mastering, and you get to it via a dedicated button rather than through some menu choices. Okay, on to the mastering section that is exclusive to the Neo version. Press Shift and mixdown mastering and you'll get to this screen. Now, I assume that you have mixed down your song onto a single stereo file, and we're about to polish that track using the three tools at our disposal: a single or a multi-band compressor, and if you cursor over to the right on the next tab, we also have a master 3-band EQ and the noise shaper down here that dithers down your 24-bit master to the 16-bit file that's going to be required for standard Redbook audio CDs. Now, like most things on the 2488, if we are in the screen like this, pressing enter will bring up a library of presets and user settings for the compressor. I would always recommend starting from these presets because a lot of thought went into their creation. If you select one of these single compressors, then this screen will come up with just a compressor tab and the EQ noise shaper tab. Now, we discussed compression in the main part of this DVD, so I won't go over it here. This compression is to add punch to the final mixdown, and it does it to the entire signal. Press enter for the library, and we'll select the very first one up here, which is a multi-band compressor, compressor times 3. When you press enter to select that, you'll notice that we now have some more tabs along the bottom. This multi-band compressor is how high-end mastering tools work. They have different settings for each band of your mixdown. In other words, you could maybe compress the heck out of your low end or your bass band, maybe a little bit more subtly on the mids, and maybe have no compression on your high end or treble. This more kind of surgical approach to compression is a great way to polish your final mix. And like I said, until you have a good grip on what each of these parameters do, I would just start with those presets. Now, if I was to tab over to the master EQ, this gives you the same EQ settings that are available for each individual track, only this EQ affects your entire stereo mix. You can turn it on and off right here. And finally, down here, underneath Noise Shaper, this reduces the amount of quantization noise that can happen when your 24-bit mixdown is decimated down to the 16-bit signal that is required to produce standard audio CDs. Just experiment with turning this noise shaper on or off, depending on whether you hear any difference or not. Some people, some audiophiles can hear those tiny little steps when you're going to a coarser resolution, which is 16-bit, which is required for burning onto CDs, versus the Tascam's native resolution, which is much higher, as 24-bit. Okay, that's about it. Once you know these few changes, you'll be able to watch the entire 120 minutes of instruction on the original Grey 2488 and note the small changes that apply to your Neo. Note that any special notes that come up for the Mark II will apply to your Neo as well.